Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating: how everyday people are building massive, life-changing fortunes simply by breaking everything society teaches us about money. I recently studied 50 quiet millionaires, and you know what? They all broke the exact same 7 rules to get there. So we're going to look at exactly how they did it, and more importantly, how you can do it too. Okay, let's kick things off by separating the two types of people you'll almost always run into when we talk about wealth. On one side, you've got your loud spenders. We all know them, right? They've got the massive house, the leased luxury car, maybe a boat in the driveway. But behind the scenes, they often have almost nothing. They are literally one bad month away from total financial disaster. Then, on the flip side, we have the quiet millionaires. These folks live in a completely normal house, they drive a paid-off car, and they're sitting on an invisible fortune. They traded the illusion of looking wealthy for the real thing. They actually own their lives. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You're probably saying, well, these quiet millionaires obviously just had rich parents or got incredibly lucky. But the data completely shatters that myth. A massive study by Ramsey Solutions of 10,000 millionaires found that 79%, we're talking almost 8 out of 10 of them, received absolutely zero inheritance. Nothing. And only 3% were ever handed $1 million. What that means is these fortunes are being built by totally ordinary teachers, accountants, and engineers, who are often the very first people in their families to build serious wealth. So rule 1, the big income myth. Wealth is what stays in your account, not what shows up. The very first rule they broke is the widely held belief that you need a massive salary to get rich. They proved over and over that the only number that actually matters is the gap. That's the space between what you earn and what you spend. Take Cheryl, for example. She's a middle school teacher. She never made over $70,000 a year in her entire career. So on paper, she has absolutely no business being wealthy, right? But here's her secret. She automated 15% of her paycheck straight into investments the literal day she got paid, way before she ever had a chance to see it or spend it. By living only on what was left after her future was funded, she quietly stacked up $1.6 million over 30 years. She didn't out-earn a single person around her. She just out-saved them. Which leads us directly into breaking rule 2, the intense societal pressure to look successful. Quiet millionaires completely avoid the dangerous trap of lifestyle signaling. Think about it. When you buy things just to look rich, you are permanently raising the baseline of what your life costs. A nicer car means pricier insurance, more expensive repairs, maybe even a bigger garage. It quietly builds a very expensive cage around you. The quiet millionaire gets that every single dollar spent trying to prove you have money is a dollar that can no longer go out into the world and make you more money. Look at Roland. He's an AC repairman who drives this beat-up work truck with well over 200,000 miles on it. His neighbors, they probably look at him and assume he's just scraping by like everybody else. But that deliberate invisibility is the exact reason he reached a $2 million net worth. He utterly refuses to raise the floor of his living costs. He sticks with the old truck because investing that extra money means so much more to him than getting the admiration of an audience that honestly isn't even paying attention anyway. Moving on to rule 3. Waiting for perfect conditions. The absolute most important ingredient in building wealth is time. You see, quiet millionaires never sit around waiting for the stars to align. They don't wait until all their debt is magically gone or conditions are flawless before they start investing, because they know time is irreplaceable. Let's look at the math. If Doreen, a dental hygienist, started investing $500 a month at age 23, she'd hit 65 with over $3 million. But what if she waited just 10 years to start at age 33? She'd end up with only $1.1 million. That single 10-year delay, just waiting for life to settle down, would have cost her $2 million. The best moment to start was years ago, but the second best moment is right now, today. All right, rule 4. Smart money beats the market. Basically, buy the whole market and then do absolutely nothing. Ordinary wealth builders like Vincent the lineman totally ignore all that frantic stock picking you see on financial news networks. They aren't trying to time the market or hunt down the next big tech stock. Instead, they buy incredibly boring, low-cost S&P 500 index funds. And then they do the single hardest thing in all of investing: absolutely nothing. JP Morgan actually ran the numbers on this, and it's wild. Over the long run, the market returns about 10% a year. But the average emotional investor, they scrape by with a tiny 3% return. Why? Because they buy high when they're excited and sell low when they panic. Over a lifetime of investing $500 a month, that emotional gap is the difference between having $1.1 million and less than $290,000. It is literally $1 million mistake. Let's look at rule 5, debt is just a tool. We're talking about the immeasurable financial return of a paid-off life. Quiet millionaires completely ignore that popular spreadsheet logic that tells you to keep a mortgage forever just to get some clever tax breaks. Just consider the baseline numbers. The typical homeowner in America has a net worth near $400,000, while the typical renter sits way down near $10,000. People like Pearl, a county bookkeeper, didn't buy into the spreadsheet hype. She and her husband aggressively attacked their mortgage, paying off their home more than a decade early. And they completely shunned 20% interest consumer credit card debt. By doing that, they dropped their running living costs to practically zero. They turned their ordinary income into an absolute fire hose aimed straight at their investments. But more than that, they bought the greatest invisible asset of all, a good night's sleep, totally free from the anxiety of debt. That brings us to Rule 6, which tackles the very quiet, very sneaky trap of lifestyle creep. Society constantly tells us we deserve to reward ourselves the second a raise comes in. But lifestyle creep is exactly what happens when your income goes up and your spending climbs right up there alongside it. You end up surrounded by slightly nicer stuff, sure, but financially, you're kept exactly as far from being wealthy as you were the day before. Resisting that creep is unbelievably lucrative. Nolan, an engineer I looked at, simply banked his raises instead of absorbing them into his lifestyle. His day-to-day life in his 40s looked almost completely identical to his life at 30, even though his salary had doubled. And honestly, even the small, everyday habits matter tremendously here. Taking just a $300 a month eating out habit, or maybe skipping those random upgrades and subscriptions you don't even use, and investing that money instead, that alone can create a $700,000 fortune over 30 years. A raise spent buys you a nicer month, but a raise invested, that buys you whole years of freedom down the line. And finally, Rule 7, the shortcut illusion. The ultimate cheat code is that there simply is no cheat code. This rule is all about breaking that loud, nonstop promise we hear online that wealth can arrive overnight if you just find the perfect side hustle or that one hot stock tip whispered at a party. The data from the largest study of millionaires ever conducted reveals the real timeline. It takes an average of 28 unglamorous years of steady, relentless contributions through booms and busts to cross that $1 million mark. The real method to wealth isn't a magic trick. It's almost insultingly boring. Adrienne, a claims adjuster, summed this reality up perfectly. She noted that the hardest part actually wasn't earning the money or even saving it. What nearly broke her was doing the exact same dull thing for decades, while the entire world screamed at her to try something more exciting. That patience, that stubborn, unwavering refusal to be interesting with your money, that is truly the rarest financial skill there is. So, bringing it all together, the big takeaway is this. Building wealth isn't magic. You just need to widen the gap between your income and your spending. Refuse to signal wealth to people who aren't even watching you anyway. Start investing immediately, buy boring index funds, kill off your debt, and aggressively ignore lifestyle creep. Then just step back and let time do the boring, heavy lifting for you. By following these exact steps, you really can quietly turn into the millionaire next door. The door to this kind of absolute financial freedom is smoothly paved, and it is wide open for anyone willing to be a little patient and maybe just a little bit invisible. You don't need a rich relative or a lucky break to get there. You just need the discipline to follow this long road that hardly anyone else is willing to walk. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought. Which of these money rules will you break first today?